What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Religion is dying. Christianity is dying. Islam is dying. Most people don't even believe all this stuff. You would have to be an idiot to actually believe all this stuff. And let me tell you how I know. All right. For all you Christians out there who say you guys are true believers and true Christians and you draped in the blood of Jesus, which is, if you think about it, by the way, Christianity is the same religion that calls every other religion pagan and evil and devil worship because they, practice sacrifice. But Christians, always want to be draped in the blood of a human being and eating their flesh and everything. They even practice it, eating the flesh of Jesus and drinking his blood and draped in it. I mean, that's pretty demonic to me, right? But anyway, none of you guys have enough faith to walk on that water, do you? Because if you really have faith, you can go to your local lake and go ahead and walk on top of it, but you can't, right? Because you know it's bullshit. Right? Because all of it's bullshit. It's all made up stuff. You see, in the age of information, people are like, you know what? This is barbaric thinking. This is low level, low IQ thinking. Religion is anti-intellectual. You see, there was a point in time, right, in history where we looked up at the sun and was like, yeah, that's God, right? And then we walked around our environment and just looked around. It was like, yep, everything around us is God, right? It controls us. It runs us. We live in it. And then somebody one day tried to interpret it because we always want to know where we come from and what is our purpose. Somebody made some shit up, right? And then somebody believed the shit that guy made up, right? And the person that made up gained power because people was that shocked. Oh, that sounds cool. Let me listen to you. Let me follow you because you know a little bit more than me, right? And that person who perpetuated religion, no matter what religion it is, became powerful. Then he realized, damn, this is powerful. People will follow me. I can use this to justify my subjugation. I can use this to justify these people working for me. I can use this to justify wars. I can use this to justify my position on this planet. Yes, religion. Religion was just a tool used to control people, right? It was a way for me to say, hey, if you don't listen to me, you're going to hell. If you don't do what I say, you're going to hell. If you don't follow my rules, you're going to hell. If you want to get into heaven, give me some money. If you want to get into heaven, do this thing for me. If you want to get into heaven, go over there and fight that person for me. That's what religion was used for. So think about the Catholic Church, right? Think about the propaganda and the power the Catholic Church was able to gain based off confession. Imagine that power. The first CIA, the first FBI, the first Mossad, the first everything. Imagine if you're a pastor. If you're well, they don't call themselves pastors. They call themselves what? Whatever. The fucking people in the Catholic Church, right? You go in there, somebody of note, somebody important, some rich person goes in a box and tells another human being all of his dirty laundry so that he can go to heaven, so that he don't have to deal with the sins that he did yesterday. See, the Catholic Church says you can do anything you want. As long as you go and confess it, you get to go to heaven. What a good goddamn ticket. Christianity gives you the option to be a piece of shit and then wipe the slate clean. No other religion does that. You see, African tradition and spirituality system says, hey, if you do something fucked up is probably going to happen to you, no matter how much you try to pray it away. Because in the real world, there's real consequences. You see, that's why they try to shun African religions, because African religions and spiritual systems are based off the rules of nature. If you do something going to happen to you. You can be sorry all you want. It's still going to happen to you. There are always consequences for the things that you do. That's the difference. Jesus Christ says, just believe in me and you can go commit a genocide. Just say Jesus said I can do it. Like right now, they're over there killing kids and stuff, killing school kids. But it's okay because we're serving the world. We're Christians. We saving the world, right? They can the goddamn Jews over there in Israel. Yeah, we need greater Israel because this fictitious book that was made up says we're supposed to have it. So let me commit genocide and blow up hospitals, blow up schools, kill hundreds of thousands of people and take their land. Because Jesus Christ, we the good guys, right? Because the Bible said we good guys, right? It's ridiculous. And that's why it's dying. Islam is dying. Hey, if you go over there and blow yourself up, you're going to get all these virgins. What do you need virgins for in heaven? Huh? What are you birthing in heaven? To need a virgin that need to be a virgin. They need to be clothed so that she's good enough to have, does that even make sense? Does that make any sense? And as a expert in counterterrorism, I've seen what religion can do to somebody who's uneducated, because it's an anti-intellectual. Religion can convince people who know no better to do all manner of things because their brain, all right, their brain is not fully developed. Religious people who really truly believe in their religion, they're not fully developed. A real true religious person is dangerous. How many times have we seen a Christian say, oh, when their child gets cancer, when their child has a disease that can easily be fixed if they just go to the hospital? How many times they say, I'm not going to do it. Jesus Christ is going to save my child, and it never happened? Huh? How many times have we heard stories of the government have to take children away from their parents because their parents was staunchly Christian, right? And because of that, they neglected their child, and their child is on the verge of dying because they think that the blood of Jesus, and I'm just going to pray it away. Even that fictitious Bible say faith without action is dead. Meaning you can have faith, but if you don't take action behind that faith, it don't mean shit. Everybody looking for Mr. Magical Man to come and fix everything because they're too lazy to do it for themselves. Everybody's looking for a hero. Nobody wants to be the goddamn hero because it's too hard. It's too much work. You may end up getting hurt. You may not actually complete the mission. You may die on your shield. Nobody wants to do that. They want to sit there and be rescued and saved by somebody. That's what makes religion so effective. That's why it's an anti-intellectual entity within the world that needs to be eradicated. We literally have all the technology right now, all right, to be a goddamn on the Carter ship. I forgot the name of that shit. But anyway, we got all the damn technology right now to level up as humanity, to be spacefaring, technologically advanced human beings. We have everything, right? What gets in the way? Religion. We have all the know-how. We have all the competent individuals and intellectual academia to create a system that's more fair for every single human being on the planet. But religion gets in the way because religion is used to justify criminals in their criminal activity. But when you educate yourselves and realize how absolutely stupid all of that actually sounds like, do you actually think, all right, in your brain that you have survived this whole time in this world, do you think that you can go inside of a whale's mouth and live for 3 days? Let me see a Christian, all right, find a big ass fish, all right, or a whale, and let me see them go survive with any amount of equipment available to this day. Any amount of equipment that you can attach to a human being, stick his ass in a goddamn whale or a big ass freaking whale shark or a big ass goddamn tuna, and let me see how long they survive. But you want to believe that shit, right? It's in the Bible. And y'all pick and choose the shit that in the Bible that you want to believe because you know it's bullshit. But you use cognitive dissonance to force yourself to say you believe it because the rest of the world around you says it's true. You don't want to be an outsider. You don't want to be an outcast. So you force yourself to believe some bullshit that you know is bullshit. Because ain't none of you Christians can walk on water. And ain't none of you Muslims going to get a goddamn virgin when you die. Okay? Because that shit don't even make sense. But anyway, without further ado, we're gonna watch some clips about how religion is gonna be dead, and I can't wait for it to die. I probably won't be around for it, but at least I get to see the process because the religion is holding humanity back. We are supposed to be spending our time on this planet exploring this three-dimensional plane that was given to us by the Most High. All right? You see, the Most High is more powerful than any book that we done made up. God is more powerful than the pieces of paper and papyruses that we put on ink. Any story that we create, all right, pales in comparison to real life and real history. We don't got to make shit up. The real world is just as fantastical, just as magical, even more so than anything that we conjured up a long time ago. A bunch of illiterate people who couldn't read, all right, who you follow. Muhammad, all right, an illiterate person who gallivanted around goddamn Arabian Peninsula killing people, that's your holy guy. Jesus Christ. Huh? You think that Mary, got pregnant by a magical ghost, an all-powerful magical ghost? Huh? So you believe in that book that God Almighty, right, interfered in human affairs, but all of a sudden he stopped, he don't do that shit no more? Huh? You saying he don't do that shit no more. When did he retire from intervening in human activity? Huh? Why you not interfering right now? How come Muhammad hasn't come back to protect the Muslims from all these damn infidel Christians? Huh? How come Jesus Christ ain't came down to fight all these dang evil Muslims? Huh? How come King David didn't come on behalf of Israel to beat all these damn Christians and beat all these damn Muslims? How come none of your religious figures that y'all give so much power come to help any of you guys? Does it make any sense? It don't. Because the Almighty himself doesn't deal in the affairs of man. We came down here, we decided to come down here and have this experience, and we're supposed to be having it. And instead of having it, we mired in where the hell we come from and all this stuff that ain't got nothing to do with us right now, because right now we supposed to be living. And ain't none of y'all living. Y'all dreaming and waiting to die, right? And when all of you guys do die, which death doesn't actually exist, when we transition to the other side, you're going to find out how absolutely wrong he was. Everybody's going to find out how wrong they are. Some people know it already. Other people got to find out. But anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think in the comment sections. Afro Think Tank, learn something, teach something. I'm out.
The death of religion isn't just a Christian story. It's global, and it's hitting almost every faith on the planet. Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, all of them. I'm Jason Boyette, and I write about religion. So a massive international report from Pew has tracked religious switching across 36 countries, and the headline is that most people who switch religions don't go to another faith. They just leave their childhood faith and they become nothing. It goes a lot deeper than the decline of Christianity in the United States. Let's talk Buddhism. In Japan, 26% of the entire adult population has walked away from Buddhism. In South Korea, it's even more extreme. Only 39% of people raised Buddhist actually stay Buddhist. Look at Islam. In the United States, nearly 1 out of 4 adults who were raised Muslim no longer identify with the faith. And a majority of them are now part of no faith at all. They've become nuns. In Hinduism, in India, the faith is very stable. Only 1% leave. But for Indian Americans, here in the United States, that number jumps to 18%. 18% of people who are raised Hindu in the US have left the faith. So here's the big takeaway. Modern life isn't just killing one religious tradition. It's putting a massive strain on all of them. I mean, people are setting aside the religious identity they inherited from their parents. When you're living in a world of endless choices and different perspectives with all the information in the world at your fingertips, you're just less likely to do it the way your parents did it. So if you want to know which religious tradition is winning in 2026, it's no religion. None. Nothing in particular.
We need to stop normalizing women getting an education.
This is exactly why Christianity died in America and the West, and why Islam will die even faster than Christianity did. Christianity died in the West because people became more empowered. They got education, they got more knowledge, they got degrees, they started questioning authorities, they started questioning the norms, they started realizing the oppression they were once through because of that knowledge that they gained. Education is what killed Christianity. And education is becoming more accessible now through the internet. Right? In the 1990s and 2000s, when the internet skyrocketed, there was a whole movement of atheism growing because of all this exchange of information that led people to question their beliefs and question authorities. And the same is happening in the Middle East right now. We're seeing a lot of women gaining access to education. And men are scared. The Muslim men are scared of this because they're slowly questioning Islam now. Of course, Muslim men don't want women to get education because they want to control them better. That's what the entire religion of Islam does. It controls women. It's meant to view women as property. And that's why Islam will die even faster than Christianity, because of how women will see the oppression they've been under for so long. As more and more people become educated, as the accessibility to education through the internet, especially through AI, that's going to expedite the process of people realizing the oppression they were once through. And it's going to spark revolutions, just as it sparked revolutions in America and the West, with all kinds of civil rights movements and all kinds of, LGBT movements. All those things were part of the bigger picture of people becoming more educated and empowered through school. And that's why they fear that the most. Religious fundamentalists fear education more than anything else.
This is not man-made. This is the words of Allah. Find me one error in this, I'll leave Islam.
Challenge accepted. So the most obvious error in the Quran is in chapter 4, verse 157. It's talking about the death of Jesus, and it says, "They did not slay him, nor did they crucify him." Muslims traditionally interpret this verse as denying the death and crucifixion of Jesus. So the Quran denies the death and crucifixion of Jesus. The problem with that, however, is that it contradicts all of history. Non-Christian scholar John Dominic Crossan says that he was crucified is as sure as anything historical can ever be. All the first century evidence, Christian and non-Christian, says that Jesus died by crucifixion. And because of that, this is the universal opinion of scholarship. Not to mention, Muslims say they respect the Old Testament prophets. Well, the Old Testament prophets predicted the death of Jesus multiple times. And even Jesus himself predicted his own death. So there's a verse in the Quran that contradicts the Old Testament prophets, the words of Jesus, all the first century data, and the universal opinion of scholarship. This is a clear error in the Quran.
That said, in America, 24% of Muslims apostate.
As much as we say Islam is the fastest growing religion in the globe, I want to tell you something that I've studied. Okay. It's the religion with the large number of defectors, the largest number of defectors. Did you know that? I can tell you. That doesn't mean the number of defectors is more than the number of those who enter, but from all others, those who are leaving Islam, and you don't even know, people are living in your home, and it's second, third generation in the Western world, they're not even Muslim. They're not even Muslim. They don't care about Islam, but their name is Muslim, and you think they're Muslim because they're in the situation. I did a little survey of Salatul Eid, and I found that 50% of the guys don't even go to Eid. They don't even go to Eid.
SubhanAllah.
It's sad, and I'd like you to actually do it here in your part of the world. See what happens.
That's something we can arrange, inshallah.
If you have the masajid, check the capacity of the masajid and look at the number of Muslims you have. You're going to find even for Jum'ah, you only have a third of the Muslims attending. I'm talking of the males who are supposed to attend. So it's very scary.
Christianity is dying because of two underlying causes that people almost never talk about. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. The two causes, consumerism and capitalism, but we need a little bit of context because it wasn't always this way. The early church was a minority group sharing life under pressure. When you look at the book of Acts, you see shared possessions, shared meals, and shared risk. This was not a big thing yet. It was not major gatherings. Now, as Christianity became institutionalized, you see, especially in Europe, a parish model emerging where people didn't shop for churches. They went to the church that was within walking distance of their community. And that church was embedded in the community life. Yeah, it cared for people in their spiritual sense of baptisms and marriages, but it was also people of that community gathering together to support each other. Now, was this a perfect model? No, but it wasn't based on market competition and consumer preference. That began to change in the late 1800s when American society beginning to be embedded in consumer culture. A major transition happens in the 1960s with something called the church growth movement that produced what we see today. Let's start with consumerism. Consumerism is the idea that everything exists to meet my personal needs. Everything is evaluated on personal satisfaction. So in the church world, you'll hear all the time, I'm not being fed, or worship just doesn't do anything, or I'm just not getting anything out of it. Notice the shift. This is being evaluated on what I need. This fundamentally shifts the orientation of the church. So everything that the church does becomes products that they are offering. And the congregation moves from an engaged community embedded in community life to a passive audience that is receiving religious goods and services. When it comes to things like tithing or giving to the church, it becomes transactional. I am paying for what I am receiving. And of course, that is all directly contradicted by the Bible, Ephesians, Corinthians, of course, the book of Acts. But that's what consumerism does. Capitalism fundamentally shapes the institution itself. For those of you that didn't do the reading before class, capitalism is an economic system that is based on private ownership, competition, market demand, and profitability is the measure of success. The church has thoroughly adopted this idea, and it has corrupted everything. And you see this in every area of the church. So in the parish model, churches were generally communally owned, often by a larger institution. Now, the most common practice is that churches are privately owned by the members. And then you have this competition mindset. right? I have been in so many meetings where they talk about the differentiation of this church from other churches. Is this a church with high mystical liturgy, or is there a rock band? And is that rock band better than the rock band at the neighboring church? Is that pastor better at communicating and moving the hearts of the people at this church than the other church down the road? And then there is this market demand where you are finding like mega churches are mega churches because generally they were in a place of population growth and there was high market demand for that specific type of service. This deeply affects the message and the values because the message and the values have to meet the market demand. And so if the market demands hate and exclusion, then the message and values are hate and exclusion. The pastor's role changes from a pastor of a community to a visionary CEO. The church staff are the executive team. I've even seen them labeled as such on church websites. And the church is focused on being a scalable institution. More and more people, more and more locations. Now, churches are not generally measured on the money, though I have been in many meetings that have talked about return on investment and profitability. But the profitability is generally measured in the profit of souls, like the number of people who were converted, the number of people who have joined the church. The Bible's model for this movement is totally different. Corinthians talks about Christianity and Christians as being one body, right? That there are many members, many different gifts and ability, and they come together as one. They're not rival corporations. So when you look at the statistics for why people are leaving the church, you can see it pretty clearly that they all flow from the fundamental corruption that has happened as a result of these two orientation shifts. So, in my opinion, if churches and Christians want to survive, if they want this movement of love and peace and justice to continue creating those things in the world, then they have to reclaim this ancient DNA.
What do you do with all the scientific inaccuracies in the Quran and Hadith? I'll give you a few examples. In Sahih al-Bukhari, number 3320, Muhammad tells his followers, if a fly falls into your drink, dunk the fly in the drink, because one of the fly's wings has a disease, but the other wing has the cure for the disease. Is that scientifically correct? No. Flies don't spread cures for diseases on their wings. According to both Sahih al-Bukhari, number 3326, and Sahih Muslim, number 6809, Muhammad told his followers that Adam was 90 feet tall and that people had been shrinking since the time of Adam. Is that true? No, it's physically impossible for a human being to be anywhere near that tall. Surah 37, Surah 67:5, and the Hadith tell us that stars are missiles that God uses to shoot demons when they try to sneak into heaven. When you see a shooting star, it's because God became angry and hurled a missile. Hurled a star. Surah 1886 tells us that Alexander the Great traveled so far west, he found the place where the sun sets. According to the Quran, the sun sets in a pool of murky water. Obviously, Muhammad made many claims that are scientifically false. Now, can Muslims reinterpret them? Of course they can, and they do. But why should non-Muslims reinterpret these passages? Passages which are perfectly clear and completely false. The argument from scientific accuracy is circular. We have to assume from the beginning that Muhammad was a prophet, so that when we go out and investigate and we find all the scientific errors, we can reinterpret them based on our assumption that Muhammad was a prophet.
About the flight, I have an article on my website, www.islamlife.com, by some scientists to disprove what my opponent said. About Adam, 90 feet. You caught me red-handed. Didn't the Bible say that during those days there were giants on the earth?
I refuted the argument from scientific accuracy by showing that the Quran and the Hadith are filled with scientific inaccuracies. Again, I said Muslims can reinterpret them and that they do reinterpret them. Jalal says, well, he's got an article on his website that shows that the fly story is true. Keep in mind what he's saying here. I've read that article and the experiment at a Muslim school. But he's saying, no, flies, if you go to a fly's wing, that actually is going to give you a disease, a cure for any disease that fly is carrying. So if the fly is carrying typhoid, just grab the fly's wing and there will be the cure. Nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. Nonsense. Just for the record, I've read articles saying that, no, science has proven that Adam was 90 feet tall and that people have been shrinking since the time of Adam. I've read stories on Muslim websites about all of these claims being true, and they're not. I mean, I'm sure if I looked, I could find proof, scientific proof on a Muslim website that stars are actually missiles that God uses to shoot demons, or that Alexander the Great did travel so far west that he found the place where the sun sets and found it going down into a pool of murky water. So again, you can reinterpret this all you want. The only point I'm making here is that if this is an argument meant to convince other people, you can't ask us to reinterpret everything that looks false. Surah 223 says, if you are in doubt as to that which we have revealed to our servant, then produce a chapter like it and call on your witnesses besides Allah, if you are truthful. So the claim is this: each chapter of the Quran is so amazing that it could only come from God. And if you want to prove that it's not from God, just try to write something like it. Now that is a very, very strange challenge. Muhammad says, in effect, my poetry is better than your poetry, therefore my poetry is the inspired word of God. Now there's something very weird about that. Suppose Mozart had said, if my symphonies are better than your symphonies, then my symphonies must be the inspired music of God. Or suppose Shakespeare had said, if my plays are better than your plays, then I must be a prophet. There's something extremely odd about this claim, and yet this, again, is the central argument offered by the Quran. In case you've never read a chapter of the Quran, I'll give you an example. This is Surah 109. Say, O unbelievers, I do not serve that which you serve, nor do you serve him whom I serve, nor am I going to serve that which you serve, nor are you going to serve him whom I serve. You shall have your religion, and I shall have my religion. That's a surah. It's one of the short ones. Some are much longer. The question is, are these words so amazing that they could only come from God? Obviously not. So at this point, Muslims tell, it only works in Arabic. You can't understand it if you don't speak Arabic. And my question there would be, well, why on earth did God give as his main argument an argument which practically no one in the world can even understand? I don't know. But here again, I just have no clue what Muslims could possibly mean. Surah 109, like every other surah in the Quran, is composed of words, one after another, arranged to convey some sort of meaning. If you say that only God could write the Arabic version of this surah, you're saying that a human being couldn't possibly put words in the order we find in the Arabic version of Surah 109. And here I just have no clue what Muslims can possibly mean. Human beings can put words in whatever order we like. And so the Muslim claim simply makes no sense to me. But even if we do take the argument from literary excellence seriously, we only have to do a little historical research to learn that Muhammad's challenge has been met over and over and over again for nearly 14 centuries. Now Jalal disagrees, and I know the Muslims in the room are thinking, no, everyone who has tried has failed. Failed according to whom? To Muslims? Guess what? Muslims aren't the judges here. This is a challenge for unbelievers. Supposedly, when a person tries to write something like a chapter of the Quran, he'll realize that it just can't be done, and he'll feel ashamed. But that's not what happened. Not now, not 14 centuries ago. And we know this even from the early Muslim records. In the early Muslim sources, we read about a man named Al-Nadir. Al-Nadir used to follow Muhammad around in Mecca. And whenever Muhammad would recite a passage of the Quran, Al-Nadir would say, I can tell a better story than that. And he would stand up and recite some verses of his own. And then he would challenge the listeners and say, in what way is Muhammad's story better than mine? What was he doing? He was doing exactly what the Quran says unbelievers can't do.
He mentioned the surah. It's not eloquent. Anyone can put words together. Where are the words in Arabic that are more eloquent and have more news about the past, the present, and the future, about the prophets of before? Monotheism throughout the book. Where is that verse that's similar to the Quran? This is the surah that he mentioned. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Say, O disbelievers, here is where we stand. لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. You don't worship what I today worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. And today you don't worship what I worship.
Now, for the argument from literary excellence, I argue that this argument, the central argument of the Quran, is hopelessly flawed. Again, it makes no sense to say that good poetry is proof of divine inspiration. Again, that would be like Shakespeare saying, my plays, they're so good, no one can reproduce them, therefore I'm a prophet. That makes no sense. Now, Jalal recited some verses to show us that this argument does work. Just a show of hands, how many of you who are not Muslims were so impressed by what you heard that you conclude that this could only come from God? None. Now that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying this argument does not work. It may convince Muslims, but it does not convince non-Muslims. Muhammad admittedly delivered revelations from the devil, and he was the victim of black magic. This doesn't fill me with much confidence that he was God's greatest, most reliable messenger. Let me explain something to you. Our earliest texts that we use as Christians are in the New Testament. These are our earliest texts. These are the earliest texts that tell us about Jesus. If you know of some earlier ones, if you know of some other sources that give us more information about Jesus, I would love to hear it. I want you to bring it. Because the historical method teaches us that generally, the earlier the source, the more reliable it is. And Muslims don't do that. They go with the later sources. They go with these later sources and treat them as if they're the most reliable. And that's fine, do whatever you want. But you can't expect me to follow this method. When I'm investigating with Muhammad, I'm going to use the historical method. So, well, our earliest sources here are Ibn Ishaq, Waqidi, Ibn Sa'd. And all three of these sources include the Satanic verses. The next thing a historian is going to look for is multiple independent testimony. So is the story found in just one source and all other sources are copying from it, or in several sources and they all tell the same story? Or do we have independent testimony? And we know about the Satanic verses from no less than 9 or 10 or even more Muslim sources. The ones I know, Ibn Ishaq, our earliest detailed biography about Muhammad, Waqidi, Ibn Sa'd, Al-Tabari, which I would say is Islam's first great scholar, Ibn Abi Hatim, Ibn al-Mundir, Ibn Mardaya, Musa ibn Uqba, and Abu Mashar. And I'd say that you can even get some of these details from sources like Sahih al-Bukhari. But by the time you get to Sahih al-Bukhari, things are being cut out. Some of the detail. He gives us some of the details, but he cuts the really important ones out. And this isn't surprising. This is exactly what we would expect from Muslims who find this material embarrassing. So the only other thing we have is the black magic. So putting all this together, I just see no evidence for Muhammad, and I see lots of good reasons for rejecting Muhammad.
If it was droves upon droves of Christians coming in here undocumented, just invading America, if it was a bunch of Christians, would y'all have a problem with that? Oh, wait. It is a bunch of Christians. 83% of unauthorized immigrants are Christian. So why is that never the rhetoric? I'm curious. They never frame it in that light. Because the vast majority of people in America are Christian. And the vast majority of people who have a problem with immigration are also Christian. So you have that in common with these people that you clearly hate. And my thing is, okay, if you don't want them to come here, fine. But where does the vitriol come from? Especially if you're both Christians. Where does all the aggression come from when these ICE agents are like ripping people out of cars, separating them from their families, taking them out in the cold when they have barely any clothes on, smashing their cars? Like, where does all this anger and aggression come from? You claim to be a Christian, don't you? You're doing this to other Christians. You're supposed to love your neighbor if you're a Christian. This is why people were protesting inside the church, because you can't have it both ways. If you're doing this to the people who believe the same as you, who are your brothers by like spiritual definition, what are you doing to the people who aren't? It's almost as if your religion is morally bankrupt. If this is the picture of how your religion is represented, you guys, like, it's not even good enough to be a Christian if you're brown. And this is also why you people who are not white, who are still Christians, the descendants of people who were enslaved and colonized, whose ancestors had this religion forced onto them, you're still Christian, and you don't think about the people who are the majority in this religion. You don't think about that. Like, you need to rethink your life, basically. You need to rethink what you're willing to be a part of. And don't be like, well, it's them. It's not the religion. They claim to be Christian, but no, they are the face of Christianity. You're not. You're not the face of Christianity. They are. Because I bet you if you ask them, if you as a black person, an African person, a Hispanic person, a Middle Eastern person, if you were the face of Christianity, what do you think they would think? Because Jesus himself is Middle Eastern, and they still made him white. The angels, the God of the Bible, they're not from America. They don't even have a race or gender, but what do they always look like? White men. And whether they show it outwardly or say it out loud or not, in their minds, they believe that they are Christianity as white people. Because they believe that they are humanity, basically. They are the standard of existence. That's what these people believe. Because white supremacy is very insidious. Very, extremely insidious. To the point where people who have been colonized, we have it within us, but we don't even recognize it. Or we might recognize it and realize, whoa, I got a lot of work to do to get this out of my head, to weed this out. You have people like Joel Webbin, who sees one video of one black church where they're rapping about Christianity, and he says that 95% of the black church is heretical, and that they all need to they need to disband all the black churches and go to white churches where they're spiritually qualified to teach. What makes them spiritually qualified to teach? Their skin color? Oh. It's almost as if that has nothing to do with Jesus. It's almost as if that's not even Christianity. That's just white supremacy. And y'all refuse to acknowledge that and hold them accountable. Hold these people accountable or get out of this garbage. It's garbage. I don't even think Jesus wanted to make a religion. I really don't. And if we're honest, Paul hijacked that shit anyway. Most of your rules come from Paul, not Jesus. And when it comes to Jesus standards, most Christians don't even follow them anyway, especially the American ones. Look at what this religion has become. Or really look at what it's always done. Ever since it became a tool of empires, it has caused more harm than good. Because all of the promises, the hopes that come from Christianity are empty. Empty. Christians have probably ended more lives. Actually, no, for a fact. Christianity has taken more lives than it has sent to heaven. You have no proof that anybody has gone to heaven. You also have no proof that anybody has gone to hell. Because we don't have any proof of these planes of existence. None. And y'all are holding on to them instead of looking into what your ancestors worshipped or what they practiced and letting these white supremacist religions demonize the things that you know nothing about because they prevented you from knowing about them. And you hold on to this ancient Hebrew Roman mythology for hope when it's a baseless hope based on a book that was decided on by a Roman council. What business did they have deciding that? Deciding what was biblical canon. And then you want to force that onto the rest of us. In this effort to hold on to hope that is outside of the realm of this earth and its existence, this hope for heaven, or if it's a hope for paradise after most people on the planet are destroyed, it's preventing you from even acknowledging the suffering of people. Now, it's preventing you from even trying to do something for them now that is outside of the Bible. People like Jehovah's Witnesses think they're actually doing something by preaching and giving people a hope when so many people have died waiting for this hope and have never seen it. A whole generation of people were told that they would never die, that paradise was going to come. They're all dead. They're all dead. That promise was empty. People were told the end was going to come in 1914. Didn't come. People were told the end's going to come in 1975. Didn't come. It's been 50 years. 50. 50? Yes. 50 years. I wasn't supposed to graduate high school. I could have graduated twice over by now. Twice over. Y'all go to the same building every weekend, learn nothing new. Don't apply anything that Jesus said in your real life. What use is this? What use? It's a buffer. It's a buffer from dealing with the real world, dealing with the reality, joining the rest of us, and actually doing what you want to happen. What do you want to happen? You want the end of this world to come where the wicked are gone. Yet, when it's shown to you that the person you voted for and all of his friends are the wicked, you turn away. You don't want to hold them accountable. What use is this religion? What do you think Jesus would do to the likes of the person you voted for? Jesus, who had children sitting on his lap. What do you think he would do? You're preaching, you're standing outside of health clinics and abortion clinics with your signs, you're threatening people with hell, or saying Jesus loves you all the time in people's comment sections, bringing up Jesus when it's not even the topic of conversation. It's not doing anything. You're not helping anyone. You're not helping the world. Because your focus is on something that's supposed to be out of the world or after the world. You think all of this wickedness is supposed to happen. Children are supposed to be in disgusting films made by disgusting people where they're being tortured and R-worded and killed. You can place the blame on somebody invisible, while actual human beings are the ones doing the shit. You don't want to hold them accountable because somebody more powerful than you will. Or we could just all hold them accountable with action and death. We can decide to get rid of the wicked instead of waiting on this God to do it when he should have done it a long time ago. And that's why I especially hate hearing black people say, God's got us. God'll do it. No, he won't. He's proven that time and again. Ask the black children that were in them snuff films that are dead, buried who knows where. Don't tell me that shit. Don't tell me God's got us. He doesn't. The only person who's been saving us as a people is us. The people who don't want to bow to authority the way y'all so easily do.
Sorry, how is religion still a thing? Like, how has it not fizzled out by now? I don't understand. Because with a little critical thinking, we all know that a 14-year-old virgin didn't just get pregnant. That is one example. A little critical thinking, just rubbing your brain cells together. How has it made it through so many generations and it's still so prevalent? I don't get it. It's like a hobby, like this little book that we still don't know who wrote. Someone wrote it. We should just go by everything this said. I don't get it. I don't understand. How is religion still a thing?
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.